What is up, everyone? Circon here, me, guys, and a little bit of an update video, I guess you could call it. Not quite sure how I'm going to call the video yet, but hey yo, update 9.22, the second common test. They're gonna go with another round of the common test server with few relatively minor changes and some disappointing changes, and also just I'm missing some changes. So anyway, let's get into what they've sent us, right? So list of changes in round 2. Improvements to the rank battles UI, change text and size, blah, blah, blah. This is a pretty big one as well. The FCM50T will be removed from the in-game store. That's big. There's no changes to the tank itself or anything like that, but that's big. That's a pretty big one. That's just been a staple of the French everything like a staple as in it's been in the game for very long. Not it's been very good and you see it a lot because it's not. But yeah. Oh, by the way, psst, easy fix in the FCM50T. Listen, give it medium tank matchmaking, where it meets medium tanks at tier 8 and not heavies. You would basically have fixed it right away. Anyway, fix some issues, blah blah. All right, so this is the meat of the second part. The Object 705A pen nerf, or pen buff, actually. Sorry, excuse me. 310 to 317. The 257, obviously a controversial one, at least for my YouTube channel, because I talked about it in great length earlier this week. The pen nerf from 340 to 315. This is on the premium round. I think that's absolutely fine. And decrease the side armor. Oh boy, did I listen. We're gonna check in a second. The 705 increases spiritual turret traverse by 25%. Added the final model to the center turret. All you people reported like, Circon, why didn't you talk about the broken stock turret on the 7? Yeah, we all knew that was a bug. So that hopefully got fixed. And the same for this gun. It's the same gun as the 257. So the 340 Alpha, or 340 Alpha, pen goes to 315. Then on the 430, change the pen of the shell from 248 to 270. Now that's pretty big. That is a pretty substantial buff. I think this is the APCR. I'm almost confident this is the APCR. And then this, I love these descriptions. So the 705A and a 260 version 4, which this is the TD, that's the heavy tank, insignificantly improved the frontal hull armoring. Same goes for the TD. They added literally 10 millimeters to like the upper hull or something like that. It's really minor, but why not just tell us? You know, why not just tell us? Anyway, so the 257. This is how it is on the first public test, the side armor. So we got 225-ish up to 230. 230, 235. And then the sight. So as you can see here, the belly of the beast is 65 millimeters of armor, which resulted in the auto bounce against pretty much every weapon ever, because you can really overmatch it, and unless you were at longer ranges, and that's because of how the shell splinters off or something like that. But up close, basically unpennable into the sight, and it had this like little side skirt of space armor, so you can pen it here, and that was relatively weak flat on, of course. But as you angle it, it gets a lot better. But then Pike knows to flex with this. A lot of people also said, or I saw a couple of people say on the YouTube comments that this hull is 220 upper. It's not. It's 260 to 300 upper. It's nutty, bruh. And then we have the lower plate, which obviously is 200 or so. Which, if you're fighting tier 7s with this thing, and you will fight tier 7s, they'll still bounce your lower plate quite a bit. There's a lot of tanks with less pen than this. So you can just not angle and kill all the tier 7s. That's still possible. The new one is also on tank strategy, thank God. And the new one is slightly nerfed here. It's about 10 millimeters of nerf. So if you side scrape now, it's like 300-ish, 348, instead of the disgusting like 500. So I think that's pretty a warranted nerf. The funny thing is though, they nerfed the lower plate so that it's 40 millimeters. So the belly of the beast is now 40 millimeters. And what this means is that they nerfed it, but it's kind of a weird nerf. Well, it's not also not a really weird nerf. Basically, this means that if you have a gun caliber that is higher than 120, so 121 and up, those kind of guns will go through the sight, and will overmatch it and will pen it. So you can shoot the whole tank instead of having to aim for this little strip here. That's that's one way to tackle it, I guess. Obviously, they didn't change the model of the tank at all. It still has the V-shaped hull, still has the frontal turret thing, or frontal turret, the frontal tracks, which can be tracked, or you pen the tank. Obviously, there's a lot of people like, hey, well, Circon, you know how you pen the tank? You just shoot it here. It's only 229. Yeah, it's a pike nose. I get it. But, and this is the weirdest thing, I still think they should not have put it in. Like, I think the nerfs are warranted. Like, I think this upper side is still completely fine. Sorry. This one, I gotta check that it's public test too. So I think this is still absolutely fine. Like 330, this is still good, right? It's still good. It will still reserve first side scrape pretty damn well by the looks of things. Like it will still I think it will still do the job, guys. With 500 millimeters, I think it's gonna be okay. And then the side is just like spaced armor, V-shaped hull bullshit. So you still prefer side scrape like an absolute king in this. And frontally, it will still be good. Like if you know your enemy well, you can just know if they can pen your upper plate or not, and it's GG, right? But you can no longer bully everyone. And the biggest reason, and I don't think I've made this a big enough point, maybe even a point at all, why I don't like this tank is that the V-shaped hull, I just don't think it's good for the gameplay. Besides that point, though, you've learned that this entire tank line, right, starts with like the KV-1, KV-1S, then the IS. All of those tanks have in common that you can shoot them frontally and track them, right? Then the IS-3 brings in the pike nose, which is important, right? Brings in the pike nose, which we all love and hate, or whatever you guys are doing with it. It has the black hole space armor here, which will eat a shot directly and will be absorbed by space armor. That's how you get the weird bounces on IS-3 sides, by the way. Is this strip of armor, the space armor. And you can shoot it below the hull and will, kind of pen. You still have to not hit the tracks. But, as you can see, you can shoot the frontal tracks and pen the pike nose. Now, the old tier 9 that came after this, similar design, right? We have a pike nose. The pike nose didn't really receive much of an upgrade over the IS-3, armor-wise. Has a little bit better angling. But same design, better turret. Gets a beast of a gun. I love this gun. It's so good. Nice DPM, nice everything. Still has the bullshit, space side armor. That's what we all know and love, or hate. And again, it has a pike nose, but you can pen it and do damage at the same time. So that keeps in line with the IS-3. Pike nose can be pinned from the front anyway. Pike nose can be pinned from the side anyway. And that's how you can deal with these kind of tanks. And then the IS-7, you finally get the hull upgrade. Your turret becomes fucking god tier. Get a little bit of a derpy gun, but more alpha as well. So, but again, no fucking V-shape. It's flat on the sides. Well, relatively flat anyway. The sides are, like the side upper is still good. But my main point is, this entire tank line made sense. Now we suddenly have IS-3. You can pen it here in the side. It's absolutely fine. Then the 257, which, sure, it has a pike nose, but the hull design is completely different. Because of the tracks. Right? It sits weirder. Like, compare this hull with an IS-3 hull in the front. It's like, hello? And then the T10 made sense, and then the IS-7 made a lot of sense. So we now have like a weird spin-off of a tank for one tier. So, I am very much against the V-shaped hulls. But if you're gonna implement it, I like what they did by making TDs and stuff, just overmatch the lower hull. But if you're gonna implement something like this, why not? Like, I'm sure you can find some tank at tier 10 for sure. At tier 10. Also, funny sucking side note: the 257 was in the game files as a tier 10 at some point, with the hull being pretty much, if not exactly the same, and they just put it at tier 9. Funny fucking side note. And somebody on Reddit, so I don't know how legitimate this is, said that this hull that we show here is the 257, or at least something super similar. And the Russians made this lower plate 30 millimeters, which is still 10 less than what we're going to get in the game. So, I mean, there's all kinds of weird things happening with this tank, which just gives me more motives to say that this thing doesn't really belong in the game, as far as I'm concerned. Because I feel like the T22, the 907, just proved that this kind of hull is just a detriment to the gameplay, in my humble personal opinion, of course. But anyway, so now we have this weird duckling in between the IS-3 and the IS-7, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you're fighting IS-3s, you know what to do. If you're fighting IS-7s, you kind of know what to do, you know? It works the same. And then, but for some reason, this guy, nope. We can no longer do the same thing for one tier, and then tier 10, you're good again. So if you're going to implement a tank like this, I mean, I'm pretty sure with some altercations, you could put this at tier 10, right? A little bit of buff stats here and there, put it at tier 10. And like, it would make so much more sense to have a V-shaped hull heavy tank line start at tier 8. Have a tier 8 with this kind of hull, have a tier 9 with this kind of hull, have a tier 10 with this kind of hull. Yeah, I don't think it would be fun to play against, but that would make way more sense tech tree-wise. So now we just have a T10 floating that doesn't lead to a tier 10 for one patch, or maybe more, depending on testing, I guess. Whilst this was pretty much a good contender, and this T10, like, I think even in their video they said they like it a lot, right? The community as a whole has positive feedback on the T10. Like, it's a reliable thing, it's nice, it's fast, good hull, good turn armor, fantastic gun. So what the shit? So I don't know what to say. Like, I'm pretty sure, before you say, like, oh, well, thanks, Circon, thanks for decreasing and nerfing my 257, I was looking forward to it. I mean, this is not the solution I had in mind. It's better than nothing, I suppose, and I don't think it's because of me. I'm pretty sure it's not because of some, like barely feud YouTuber that has brought this to their attention this much, so they changed this. Like, oh, well, Circon said it was bad, we'll nerf it. Like, I can't see anyone in in the More Gaming RU say these words. I refuse to believe it. And again, if I had my way, we would just keep the T10 there, because it would make way more sense tech tree wise, right? So that is fucking weird. Then they slightly increased, improved the version 4 268. That's another thing that we could probably talk about in the same video. I was kind of going to talk about the heavies only, but if we take a look at the public test 2, and we're going to go to Russia, TDs, and we're going to go to tier 7, right? We're going to open this one up, then we're going to go to tier 8, open the next one up, and then tier 9, we're going to get the 263, right? So the SU-101M, so what they basically did was, to this tank line, tier 7 and up, is give it armor, no fuel range, and heavily reduced DPM. And yeah, on the tier 7, it kind of works, because you have 200 effective, and look at the superstructure, is really freaking good. You kind of need to aim pretty damn well, and this thing sees tier 5, so it's pretty ridiculous. Lower plate 160 as well, so this hull is extremely good for a tier 7 TD. Like, sure, you know, DPM isn't great, thank God, because if the DPM stayed the same, we would have like 3400 or something. So I can, like, I don't really agree with this. I think the old tier 7 was fine, but I think this rework, like, if you have a different, you know, mind on how this tank should be and give it armor and stuff like this, then this kind of makes sense. I'm not sure how OP or underpowered or whatever this would be, because, you know, test servers suck to test tanks, really, and especially tier 7s, because no one really tested tier 7s. So we're gonna have to see. I played it one round. The gun still seemed like, yeah, like okay, you know, this 39 dispersion, but it had good aiming time. So I think this is okay. And this is where the funny part begins. The SU-101. Now, if there was ever a tank, a TD, that could use a buff since it came into the game, it is probably the 30. No, I mean the SU-101. So they did the same to this thing. They give it absolutely no fuel range. Mobility is still decent. A lot of the things you'll also notice that they nerfed the reverse and tank reverse speeds for the most part. It doesn't get a DPM upgrade. You can go with 100 mil, and there's 2200 or 122. 0.4 dispersion is just awful. But so here's the real kicker. SU-101, 211 armor, really good upper structure. Has a weak spot. Sides are still cheese, right? Except for this part, I guess, 180. Then the tier 8. Alright? Keep this in mind. Let's take a look at tier 8, okay? 3D model. What do you mean? It doesn't... The fuck? It literally is worse hull than the tier 7. A worse hull than the tier 7. No other upgrades either. You have the same fuel range. You have the same kind of shitty guns. Oh wow, we get a 122 mil, boys, but no DPM upgrade, no nothing. It is awful. It is so bad. It is ridiculous. Look at the lower plate. It's still the same. The upper plate is barely better than the tier 7. It's like, it's not, this is not worth whatever the fuck they did to this. Keep in mind as well that SU-101 has an epic, and by epic I mean disastrous, 3 degrees of gun depression. Hello? Even SU-101 has 4. Now you might think, well, there's only one difference, Circon. That's a lot. 3 compared to 4 in this game is big, right? 5 is what you want to see on a tank at minimum. 4, you know, you can kind of manage, but Jesus Christ, it also gets less gun traverse range. So we have a tier 8 that's in almost every way except HP pretty much worse than the tier 7. So they, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but they completely forgot about this tank. Like they just like skipped over this one. Like I think they forgot about it. They're like, oh yeah, buff the change this. You want to fuck it. We'll just do nothing. We'll just do barely anything. Just nerf the fuel range. Okay, hull 150 low. Like it makes no sense. Oh, please excuse my coughing. It's a long video. Longer than I expected. Anyway, the tier 9 as well. Got a buff in the gun traverse. 12 degrees. Feels really solid. This tank, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Like, obviously, it's a nerf in a lot of ways, but having this armor layout is pretty sweet at tier 9. Because tier 9 matchmaking is so much better for it than the tier 10. But still, dispersion is awful. The first speed is not too bad, 2055. Like, the tier 9, a lot of people saying, like, oh, this is really, really bad. I don't know. I feel like the tier 9 could be pretty decent, all in all. Like, I truly believe that it could be fairly decent. Because, like, tier 9 matchmaking is good. I just don't agree with low fuel range. Like, 360? Come on, guys. Tier 9, please. Hello? And then the tier 10. I haven't actually put it up yet. The tier 10, I played, I think, only a handful of games in it, right? So I'm by no means an expert. But in my humble opinion, in playing it, just looking at the model itself, doesn't really do it a lot of justice, because you kind of feel like, well, there's not super amounts of armor for a tank like this. But in reality, when you're actually playing it, it's actually pretty good. So, and you know, of course, DPM is low. Of course, the top speed. A lot of people are complaining about the tank traverse as well. But 24 is low, granted. And 650 alpha, really high pen, like 293, 360. I think this is probably a pretty good tank, and I don't think it's like super OP. Again, it's hard to see on the server. It really is. It doesn't have really anything that's super broken about it. The thing is, though, it has really good armor, right? It's not quite E3 levels, of course. It's a bit more, it's more maneuverable than an E3. And there's some, you know, quirky things about the tank shooting into the engine deck, stuff like this, if you're higher up than the tank itself. So you kind of gonna have to be a little bit careful. But overall, from the first initial test that I played it in, I actually quite liked it. And I think the only thing they buffed about it in the version 2 is making this upper plate like an extra 10 millimeters, which at this angle is a pretty substantial buff, but it was something you're not going to shoot at anyway. The problem here, of course, is that a lot of people are going to shoot heat at the most armored part, funnily enough, because this is, you know, angled to like nutty levels. But this 320, 310, this is because you're a tier 10, you're gonna meet a lot of tier 9s and 10s. You're gonna meet a lot of tier 10 only matchmaking. There's a lot of tanks out there that have more than 320 heat pen. So I think a lot of people, close ranges or medium ranges, are gonna shoot this. Close ranges, you also have the visor here, 250. And of course, being a backwards mounted gun, if it assaults you around the corner or whatever, you can still track and damage it. But again, like I said, I feel like the stats that you see here don't really do it justice. It felt pretty good on test server, even against tier 10s heat spamming on the test server. Who knows? Like, maybe I'll change my mind on this, but again, on the test server, it's hard to tell. And yeah, I think that's okay. I think the tier 9 is probably gonna be decent, but the SU-101, it's just like, what the fuck? This is so bad. Like, they literally forgot about this thing 100%. 100%. And the tier 7, like, I like the tier 7 the way it is now, but I get that they want to get the whole tech tree to be the kind of about the same. So, you know, I can see that, which makes it even weirder to get back to my original point, that makes it even weirder to put a 257 in between an IS-3 and an IS-7. If you're gonna do stuff like this, where the whole tree kind of makes sense. And if you're gonna give the British a Badger at tier 10, which makes more sense with the whole tree, that makes it like the 257 is just a weird tank. What is it doing there? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's enough rambling on for me for now. These are some of the changes and my thoughts on the round 2 of the test server. I don't think they're gonna do anything else. I can't remember the last time there was like around 3 or 4 in the test server, so this is probably what we're gonna get. Let me know what you think about the changes. Let me know what you think about SU-101, by the way, because by God, like, everybody forgets about it apparently. Anyway, that was it for me today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Yeah. I hope you like these kind of videos. I got more gameplay videos coming up as well, of course. I'm not gonna just spam you guys with this kind of like theory talk. But yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, all that junk and stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.